Okay, let's quickly go over missiles in War Thunder. There is broadly 4 things you need to know when firing a missile. Your speed, the missile's speed, the target's distance, and the target's speed. The missile will accelerate to its top speed by the time it burns out of fuel, in addition to your current speed. So if I fire an R3S while doing Mach 2, it will accelerate to Mach 3.7. The R3S's top speed is Mach 1.7, so if it decelerated to Mach 1.7, I'd overtake it and shoot myself down. Note that this only applies if a missile is going in more or less a straight line. Past Mach speed, it is very hard to accelerate, as the missile and your plane, or well, any object, is going past Mach speed, is physically cutting through the air rather than pushing air into air. I would try and make an example of this to demonstrate it somehow, but I can't be bothered. You can find examples of it on YouTube if you research into Mach speed stuff. You can kind of see this by turning while you're doing Mach speed in game and maintaining Mach 1. You'll notice that A, you use a lot more fuel, and B, it's very hard, and it's the same for a missile. The missile will try to lead what it is locked onto in order to hit. A missile will be more manoeuvrable if you are flying low and slow, and will have better range if you are flying while high and fast. The more dense the atmosphere is, the more air can hit the control surfaces, which makes turning more effective, and the less dense atmosphere will make the missile, well, slightly less agile, but capable of going a lot faster. Note that gravity will help a bit while the missile is diving, but how much difference it will make is arguably negligible, especially if it's turning. If a player is going faster than you, it's fine to launch a missile, but it should be launched at as close of a range as possible. The missile will go faster than the player you're firing at, but the intent of firing in this situation isn't to hit them. It will if they keep flying straight or climb, of course, but that means that they have to turn. Hopefully this will make them slower than you, allowing for either another missile or guns. I'm not going to get into radar-guided missiles, because that's treading dangerously close to BVR territory, cranking, MAR and such, and seeing as this is only useful in, well, very limited circumstances at the moment, it's just not worth it. In short, you have chaff to break a radar lock. Depending on the radar, this might not work always, so you want to dive to get ground clutter in the way, in addition to chaff. Ideally terrain too, as in mountains. You can also do things like flying relative to them so that you appear static as they move forwards. It's obscenely complicated, and I'll be honest, I don't really understand it too well. To be honest, if you're able to get mountains in the way, you're probably within the MAR and dead already, so it's time to resort to some of that pilot shit. Evading missiles is a deceptively easy thing to do. Of course, you're not going to evade a missile that you can't see, and you can't see a missile that's not powered, but as we covered already, missiles hate turning. While they're out of fuel, they basically can't turn. A quick note, S-rounds detonate instantly after running out of fuel because they have no fins to guide and stabilise them. They're purely controlled by thrust vectoring, and that means also that you can stall them if the player's firing it and going slow enough. Flares are very useful, and contrary to popular belief, they do work. Flares are a secondary countermeasure to your best countermeasure, which is not being fired on in the first place. Primarily they do 2 things. They stop a player being able to lock you efficiently. You can go to 2 minutes and 30 and you can actually see my teammate fires flares. My missile is trying to lock them, stopping me from locking up the F4 that's chasing him. That missile wasn't ever going to hit though. I was hoping that he would have stall climbed earlier, and then maybe it would have, but at that range it's pretty unlikely. Either way, there was 3 players left and I've got 6 missiles between them, so it's fine to waste a few. The other thing they do is confuse. A missile that's tracking will continue to track in most cases. People who say flares don't work are often using them wrong. If you fly straight and I fire a missile at you and you fire flares, then keep flying straight, the missile will try to hit the flares, go straight through them, then immediately see your big hot engines and go right back after you. Most Soviet missiles will lose track if you just think about firing flares. In a head-on, your IR signature at subsonic speeds is quite small, so you can usually dodge an R60M or MK by flaring and then climbing. You climb because that's the easiest thing to do to make the missile track further if it does lock. If it keeps going for you, well, it's probably time to panic flare. Chances are you're dead anyway. Western jets are very well suited to staying high, far and fast, crumbling when they go into dogfights. so R60s will be used and fired up at you. This is good from your perspective because you can use the sun to evade missiles. The sun is the most effective flare there is. It's also good from the R60's point of view because their climbing is very efficient and they're very fast. Remember, in a straight line you cannot outclimb a missile. R60's chase flares like anything. 1 or 2 bursts in combination with getting rid of your afterburners to reduce your IR signature will almost always be enough. If your plane is smoking or on fire, and you think you can get back to the airfield, turn your engines off completely if someone fires a missile at you, and dump all of your flares as well. The smoke is hot and large IR signature, so the flares in a bunch might throw the missile off, but honestly you're down to luck and hope at that point. Oviatt Jets are typically quick accelerating with poor radars, RWR and very limited flares. Jets with sweeping wings are either very fast or manoeuvrable, struggling to go from one to another quickly. Delta wing aircraft like the Mirage and Vigans have amazing AOA, which diminishes after 1 to 3 hard turns. Take them into a climb or a 2-circle rate fight. Players hate rate fighting because it's boring, but it's often very effective if used at the right time, and early missiles can't actually turn tight enough to connect in a rate fight a lot of the time. And I think that's just about everything. This took a little while longer than I thought it was going to. Well, I hope you found this useful. By no means is this definitive guide on what to do when fired on by a missile. There is simply too many variables to say definitively what you should do. But in any case, thank you for watching.